In the violent sport of boxing, raw power usually gets all the headlines. But true fight enthusiasts know that pure intelligence is far more lethal than strength alone. Welcome to the surgical mind of Terence "Bud" Crawford. Holding a flawless 41-0 record with 31 knockouts, Crawford isn't just an undefeated champion. He is a historic anomaly, the first male fighter to become a two-division undisputed champion in the four-belt era. Unlike traditional power punchers who rush for early knockouts, Crawford operates like a human computer. In the opening rounds, he collects data, calculates distance, and baits opponents into subtle errors. Once the download is complete, the execution is absolute. Today, we dive deep into the technical brilliance behind Terence Crawford's top 5 greatest knockout performances, breaking down the exact moments he decoded elite rivals and shattered their spirit. Number 5. Crawford vs. Julius Indongo. We begin at number 5. Crawford vs. Julius Indongo, August 19, 2017. A historical night where all 4 super lightweight titles hung in the balance against Namibia's awkward, long-limbed champion. Indongo brought a dangerous, unpredictable reach that had troubled previous champions. But Crawford didn't waste time getting trapped on the outside. Moving seamlessly as a southpaw, Crawford measured Indongo's wide, sweeping hooks during the first 2 rounds. By round 3 in Crawford vs. Julius Indongo, Crawford identified a critical flaw. Every time Indongo threw his straight left hand, his right ribcage remained completely exposed for a split second. As Indongo committed to a long punch, Crawford slipped slightly to his right and unleashed a devastating short left hook directly into Indongo's liver. The sound echoed through the arena. Indongo collapsed instantly, writhing in pain on the canvas, unable to beat the count. It took Crawford less than 8 minutes to become the undisputed ruler of 140 pounds. Proving that a perfectly placed body shot requires leverage, timing, and patience. Number 4. Crawford vs. Shawn Porter. At number 4, Crawford vs. Shawn Porter, November 20, 2021. A brutal test of elite endurance against one of the most rugged, relentless fighters of a generation. Before Crawford vs. Shawn Porter, Porter had never been stopped in his entire career. He pushed elite champions like Errol, Spence, and Keith Thurman to their absolute limits with his swarming, head-first physical style. For 9 rounds, Porter made the fight uncomfortable, smothering Crawford's range. While lesser fighters panic under physical pressure, Crawford remained completely composed. He observed Porter's lunging entries, noticing that Porter consistently ducked his head low whenever he initiated a combination. In round 10 of Crawford vs. Shawn Porter, Crawford executed his trap. As Porter lunged forward, Crawford stepped backward, planted his feet, and delivered a short, lightning-quick left uppercut directly through the guard, sending Porter crashing down. Seconds later, Crawford scored a second knockdown, prompting Porter's corner to throw in the towel. Crawford did what no other fighter could. He broke Shawn Porter's legendary chin with millimeter-accurate counterpunching. Number 3. Crawford vs. José Benavidez Jr. Coming in at number 3, Crawford vs. José Benavidez Jr., October 13, 2018. A deeply personal blood feud in Crawford's hometown against an undefeated, trash-talking contender. Benavidez spent months insulting Crawford leading up to Crawford vs. José Benavidez Jr., claiming Crawford was overrated and too small for the welterweight division. Benavidez used his massive height and reach advantage to stay defensive early on. Crawford controlled the pace with stiff jabs to the body, systematically chipping away at Benavidez's legs and stamina over 11 grueling rounds. Even with a comfortable lead on the scorecards, Crawford refused to settle for a decision. With less than a minute remaining in the 12th round of Crawford vs. José Benavidez Jr., Crawford cornered exhausted Benavidez. Crawford dipped low, baited Benavidez into dropping his guard, and exploded upward with a bone-chilling right uppercut that lifted Benavidez off his feet, closing the show in dramatic fashion. Number 2. Crawford vs. Yuriorkis Gamboa. At number 2, Crawford vs. Yuriorkis Gamboa, June 28, 2014. The defining night that announced Terence Crawford to the boxing world against an Olympic gold medalist. Gamboa was a terrifying athletic phenomenon with blinding speed. In the opening 4 rounds of Crawford vs. Yuriorkis Gamboa, Gamboa's hand speed gave Crawford serious problems, landing quick combinations and stealing early rounds. Recognizing that fighting Gamboa from an orthodox stance left him open to fast right hands, Crawford made a tactical decision that altered his entire career. He switched permanently to Southpaw mid-fight. From the Southpaw stance in Crawford vs. Yuriorkis Gamboa, Crawford completely controlled the distance, dropping Gamboa 4 separate times. The final knockout in round 9 was a masterclass in timing, catching a rushing Gamboa with a short right hook that turned out the lights instantly. Number 1. Crawford vs. Errol Spence Jr. And at number 1, the undisputed masterpiece. Crawford vs. Errol Spence Jr., July 29, 2023. The most anticipated fight of the decade against an undefeated, 3-belt champion for welterweight supremacy. Boxing experts were split down the middle before Crawford vs. Errol Spence Jr. Spence was considered the bigger, stronger pressure fighter who would try to bully Crawford against the ropes. Instead, Crawford vs. Errol Spence Jr. turned into one of the most dominant performances in modern boxing history. Using a sharp, stiff jab from the southpaw stance, Crawford systematically dismantled Spence's offense, dropping him in round 2, twice in round 7, and completely neutralizing his power. By round 9 of Crawford vs. Errol Spence Jr., Spence was battered and defenseless. Crawford stepped in with a terrifying combination of crisp hooks and uppercuts, forcing the referee to step in and save Spence from further damage, crowning Crawford as the undisputed king. Terence "Bud" Crawford isn't just an undefeated champion. He is a living masterclass in boxing intellect, adaptable technique, and killer instinct. Which of these 5 fights, Crawford vs. Indongo, Porter, Benavidez, Gamboa, or Spence, was his absolute best performance? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, leave a like if you enjoyed this breakdown, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into fight history.